Hello, Colts Nation, and what is up, No Horse and Family? Welcome back to another episode of the No Horse Around Podcast live stream edition. I don't know, man. We got a lot we can talk about tonight. I'm excited to talk to you guys. I'm excited to kind of get this ball rolling. We can talk about anything and everything tonight, really. Obviously, the big new news, right? Thank you, Addison, for jumping in here. Is we can just, I mean, we might as well talk about it right off the jump, right? Like Jonathan Taylor is pulled off of the pup. He is in his 21-day window, and a lot of news comes out today, right? Like a lot of news in regards to the relationship with the Colts. How does it look? How has it progressed? Is it still as bad as it once was? So that's out there. So let's kind of trace back, right? Like let's go to the beginning of this, and we'll talk about. Obviously, everyone knows the contentious relationship the Colts and JT had, or it was being reported that they had. The trade request, the not showing up. You know, Basel. I'm asking for trouble. We'll see. But so, I mean, obviously there's that. And now you have these reports that come out recently. Stephen Holder talked about on ESPN today that the relationship has come a long way in the last little bit, that they seem to be mending a little bit of a fence. We've not heard a lot. We've not heard from JT at all. They did not make him available. They don't have to. Is kind of what was reported by James Boyd. A player they don't have to make him available, right? They can choose who they want to. But then you have like Anthony Richardson talking about how they've talked like every day. So that's news. You have Shane Steichen talking about the other day that he's gonna practice tomorrow for the first time in front of everybody, because today was a walkthrough. You have Shane Steichen also talking about that he's really excited to be around his teammates again. So what do we take from this, right? Addison chimes in. Jonathan Taylor playing this week will be a good break for Zach Moss. He has been getting a large workload. Absolutely. Like his week 2, he took almost every snap at the running back position. It would be a welcome addition, obviously, right? Colton, happy JT is back. Unboxing Mania. Do you think AR with JT will make the Colts offense explode? We're going to get to that here in just a minute. I think that's a great topic, so we'll definitely touch on that. But you kind of get these mixed signals. I think all along, you guys can trace back kind of on some of on the live streams recently, as recent as I think last week, the frustration that I had kind of boils over a little bit. You don't want to be here, don't be here. We'll trade you, get what you can, and move on. If he wants to be here, then I'm all for it. You have a team of 52 other guys who are bought in. Is JT bought in? I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows because no one's heard from him in 6 months, something like that, something insane. So I don't know if he's truly all bought in, right? I think he's bought into the idea that he's going to have to play. He's going to get what he wants, whether it's a long-term deal with the Colts, whether it's a trade, whether it's a long-term deal in free agency somewhere else, he's going to have to play. It's good news if you're looking at will he play this week, that you hear reports saying that he's looked ready to play probably for the last 2 weeks in his workouts. He looks good. He looks ready. I would almost be a little surprised if he comes out and he carries like a massive amount of the workload if he does play on Sunday. That would be interesting to me. So let's go with what Unboxing Mania said. Do you think AR with JT will make the Colts offense explode? I think it's what a lot of people have been pointing towards, right? A lot of people have been really excited from the moment that we drafted Anthony Richardson was what's he going to look like in the backfield with his running ability with Jonathan Taylor, right? Like, what is that going to look like? Is it going to be feeding off each other? And then now you combine it with how Richardson has looked the first 4 weeks, and how really the RPO game has looked with Zach Moss. Zach Moss has done an amazing job. On the pace he's on, like it's like 1,600 yards rushing, something ridiculous. What, two 100-yard rushing games out of the 3 that he's played? So, I mean, he's looked great, but in the end, Zach Moss is not Jonathan Taylor. He doesn't have the home run ability. He's just not that guy, to quote, like, he's not that guy, right? And that's not a knock. There's not many people who are Jonathan Taylor. There's not many people who can produce in that way. So, that being said, they're going to have, right now, they're honoring like the pull on the RPO from Anthony Richardson because they know what he's capable of running the ball. What will then happen when they have to honor the other way around, right? Really honor it because of Jonathan Taylor's ability to take it 25, 30, 50, 75 yards because of his speed, right? What would he do with that? It's a great question. And it will be interesting to see how they integrate that in, right? And then on top of that, you have the play action pass, right? So if they're going to have to honor the run, pull them up, and that might free up, the ability for Anthony Richardson to go downfield more. So do I think it's going to open up the run game and the offense in general? Yeah, because it is just another playmaker. Right now, when you listen, you hear about the playmaker of you're guarding against Anthony Richardson. He's the only playmaker the Colts really have. You're adding another one, so it doesn't hurt. Addison, JT will bring the safeties. We'll keep the safeties from getting too deep, and Arrow have more opportunities to throw it deep. Absolutely. Biden is such a stupid media talking point. Break the mold, be better than the media idiots. Basel, I love you, man. It's not a stupid talking point because if you're not along the point, if you're not bought into what they're doing, then you're not as productive. You can say it at your work too. If you don't believe in what you do, you go through the motions. So being bought in is not a stupid media talking point. It is true. Now, he can be bought in because he wants to get paid. He doesn't have to be bought in like this is my family, this is my team, these are my brothers. He can be bought in because he knows it's going to get him paid, but it's still bought in. You can't half-ass it and expect it to be actually something. Colton, JT is going to open the offense up big time. Moss has been great, but he is not near as dynamic as JT. Absolutely. That's kind of what I was saying. I think Moss has been fantastic. I think he would do a fantastic job, but he doesn't have that dynamic playmaking ability that a Jonathan Taylor has. So getting JT back does open the offense up. Now, how explosive does that look? We'll find out, right? And I don't think you're going to find out this week necessarily. Like he hasn't played meaningful snaps since December of last year. He's not really done any football activity. So, I mean, I wouldn't look for it like this Sunday. It'd be great, but I mean, it may take a couple of weeks for them to get into the groove. It's a timing thing. Dabney Offerman, thank you for coming in. JT needs to suit up and get dirty. Titans coming to town. Got to go out and KA. I'm not sure what KA means, but yeah, I mean, it's a big game, and we can kind of transition into that a little bit as we talk about this. It is. It's a big game. It's a divisional game. You've played 2, you're 1-1, right? And it's the Titans, right? The Titans have owned the division really and truthfully for the last half decade at this point, and you've not played well against them. They are an extremely physical team, and you have not been able to match that physicality in the years past. What can you do this year? What are areas that we're looking at to hopefully improve, hopefully be able to take a step forward against them, right? So, I mean, like for me, I think one of the weakest areas if you're going Titans offense against the Colts defense, let's start there, right? One of the weakest areas for the Colts is the secondary. Outside of DeAndre Hopkins, I don't know what they have to take advantage of that weakness. And DeAndre Hopkins is fantastic. The loss of Dallas Flowers is a very big deal, whether you think he was playing well or not. He was playing well, and this does cause like depth issues, right? Do they have the needed weaponry to take advantage of that? I I don't think so. Because beyond DeAndre Hopkins, you have a hobbled Traylon Burks, right? You have a Nick Westbrook Kenai, who's really a fourth receiver. You have several other ones who are coming, Chris Moore, you have backup level ones. You have a really good tight end, but he's just not made that jump yet. And he's not been consistent this year. And you have Ryan Tannehill, who I think, unless you're wearing Titans colored glasses, is on the downside of his career, right? So, do they have the ability to take advantage of that? I don't think so. So then you're talking strength versus strength, right? And the national media can say what they want. The local media here in Tennessee can say what they want about the Colts. It's strength versus strength. The strength of the Titans has always been Derrick Henry and their ability to run the ball. And the Colts' strength on defense right now is their D line, the ability to hopefully stop the run and get to the quarterback. How does that match up? How that's where the game's going to be won. Can you stop Derrick Henry and force them to be one-dimensional with Ryan Tannehill? Can a DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, can they do that? Can you get to the quarterback? Can Kwity Paye get to the quarterback? Can Samson Ebukam, continue to get to the quarterback? Can Buckner continue to get to the quarterback and get hits on him? Not necessarily sacks, but get pressures and hits on him and cause disruptions to what they want to do as an offense. That's where this game is won. That's where this game is lost. If Derrick Henry can get the ball moving and they can really run it, it's going to be an issue because it's going to lead to play actions. It's going to lead to the ability to probably go and take some deep strikes with DeAndre Hopkins. And we know what he looks like. He's been in the division forever. So we know what that looks like. Let's go through some of y'all's comments right quick. Unboxing, what's the injury report for the Colts versus Titans? Are the Titans banged up? So the Colts, okay, so as far as the Colts go, the Colts are, let's see here. Let me pull up the Colts injury report. They only did a walkthrough today. Coach Steichen said that partially it was due to the back-to-back overtime games. So they just kind of did a walkthrough, not full practice, but according to it, it's like what's guessed. So Mo Alley Cox did not participate with an ankle, Buckner with a back, Leonard with a groin, Taekwon Lewis with a knee, Quentin Nelson with a toe, Kwity Paye and Bernard Raimann are both in concussion protocol. Full participants were Ryan Kelly and Jonathan Taylor. So that's the Colts one. And then as far as the Titans, let's see if I can find that for you guys real quick. Let me see. Titans injury report. So here we go. There we go. Titans injury report. Okay, so the Titans injury report for today. Traylon Burks with a knee did not practice. Luke Gifford, he's a linebacker, did not practice. Tier Tart, D tackle, did not practice. If you don't know who he is, you might jog your memory. He picked off, I think it was Carson Wentz a few years ago at the line. It was really weird. Elijah Molden, he's a corner. He's limited practice. Nicholas Petit-Frere, he was a full practice, but he's coming off of that suspension, so we'll see. Kyle Phillips was a full practice. He's coming off a pub. Peter Skoronski, their stud guard that they drafted this year, he was a full practice, but he's coming off of a burst appendectomy, so he probably won't play. And then Josh Weil, he's a tight end. He was a full participant. So they got a lot of people. Some keys out. Nicholas Petit-Frere, like that's a big one. He coming back. We'll see if he plays for them. If he doesn't, that's good for us. Skoronski's out again. That's O-line issues. I think all that's good news for the Colts potentially. Addison, first quarter will show us what type of coach that Steichen is. If he can ensure a fast start after a slow start last week, then we got ourselves a good one. I think we got a good one anyway. Watching how they play, what they do, and how they fight basically to the end in regards to the game. Like they are never out of the game. They don't roll over in any capacity, which I think is vastly different than years past. Unboxing. Man, Colts are due for a South Division title. I couldn't agree more. Shout out to Colts House. Thank you, man. Thank you for jumping on here. Good point with Reich. They couldn't change and adapt. Absolutely. Colts definitely had a lot of did not practice, but this was, bear in mind, it's a walkthrough and it's what you think. It's not necessarily what they would do. It's what you think. And also, bear in mind too, Ryan Kelly was out last week. There's a chance that he's coming back. And you look at DeForest Buckner, I think the stats were like he's missed like 3 games his entire career. So, and he sits out a lot. If Dillard still continues to be below average, perhaps. Skronsky looks good though. Dillard is really bad. And to live here in Tennessee and to hear them talk, they do not like him. They paid him a lot of money, and he has been not good. Skronsky has looked really good. I'm going to be surprised if he plays because the rumor around here on the local radio that I listen to here for in Tennessee, he had an appendectomy, and then it came out that it burst, which is a bigger issue. So I don't know. This is really the first week. I don't think he's going to play. I kind of would be surprised if he played, in all honesty. So I think that helps. If Dillard plays, Skronsky's out, and Nicholas Petit-Frere is not ready for them, I think that bodes well because I think they have a bottom 5 offensive line in the NFL, and it bodes well for you. MND experience. Thanks for jumping on here, man. How nervous are you about D-Hop? I'm not sitting here being like, thank God we get to play him again. I wish you hadn't gone to Tennessee. I still think he's a very talented receiver. We know what he is. You throw the ball, he's going to catch it. He's not going to burn you down the field, but he's going to take you apart with his route running ability. And the only upside potentially is he, in my opinion, is the only target that they have. They really forced the ball to him in week 1, and their loss. He wasn't really obviously involved in the Cleveland game where they got blown out. He played well last week. I'm not thrilled. I would have loved it if he hadn't signed with them. Then I think their offense would look real different. Colts House need Big Q. I think Q's going to play. I think Q's one of those guys who takes his time during the week, and he's just a gamer. He's just going to play. AP needs more targets. AR needs to hit his checkdowns. He has to slow down his drop back for accuracy. He seems to like Granson a lot. Okay, so let's pick this apart a little bit. AP needs more targets. My issue with that is, yes, I think AP is explosive. He has a case of the yips. It's all I can say. He's got the case of the dropsies, and for Richardson, he's going to go where he trusts. Now, he had made a big catch last week. He also had a big drop. We saw these big, huge catches in training camp and in practice, and it's not translated to the field. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you're right. Maybe you target him more and you force feed, and eventually, that's going to get better. I don't know with him. I don't know where he sits. Where it seems mental more than anything at this point. AR needs to hit his checkdowns. You can look in the last game. I think he's done a good job of taking what the defense gives him. And you look at the last game, there's the obvious play in the end of the 4th when he went to Granson deep and he hit him in the numbers, and Granson just didn't make the catch. But underneath, he had Michael Pittman Jr. running for days that he could have probably hit for a check down. I think you can pick apart that sometimes, in the after effect in the moment. Slow down his drop back for accuracy. I'm going to leave to that to someone who watches a lot more tape than I do. He does seem to like Granson a lot. I think he trusts him. You guys got to remember, too, look across from training camp, OTAs, and everything. Granson's been a full participant the entire time. He was in OTAs. He was in the mini camps. He was in training camp. He's really the only guy who has been there almost the entire time that he's been able to throw the ball to. So he has a great rapport with him. Colts House continue. He needs to put more touch downfield when targeting 11. With Taylor back, you never know. Is that Goldberg music I hear in the background? Uh, so I mean, touched on downfield when he's targeting at 11. I don't know if he needs. I don't know. I mean, there's the play in the last game where he got his head turned around a little bit and hands to the face, and that caused some issues on the touch on the on the would be touchdown pass. So I'm not entirely sure. With Taylor back, it's going to be very interesting to see how teams do game plan. Let's see. Dabney, Offerman, Alec Pierce can't catch contested balls. That's the main issue. Traffic is rough on him, but I think he can. I don't know. I mean, he caught the ball where he probably should have been concussed. It was a late hit when he hit the ground. It was very contested, and he did come down with that. So I don't know. I don't know if junk in front of him messes with him or not. I don't know the answer. If I did, maybe I'd be in there with Reggie Wayne helping coach the wideouts. AP needs more separation before dropping like that. I was watching last year's highlights of 14. He was catching a lot more. I got to give what the defense. I agree. Got to give what the defense gives you. Thank you. Wyatt, buddy, thanks for jumping in here. Colts' relationship with JT is reportedly much improved. Is it time to credit Chris Ballard with repairing the relationship? I do. I'm not crediting it yet. My buddy, obviously, in co-host Zach, he sometimes doesn't like Chris Ballard, and by sometimes I mean a lot of times. So he might sit there with me too. I'm not crediting it yet, but it's a steady hand, and you just approach what you do. And that seems to be what Ballard has done with the whole JT situation. Basel, my man, the media guys are mostly being too hard on Alec. He's been open several times for easy catches, but the ball is not going his way. So I can agree. I can agree that it's not going his way. But at the same time, he has to catch what does go. Like, you have to make the most of your opportunities. And when the ball does come his way, he needs to catch it, because that's how you build trust with your quarterback. That's how you get him to buy into the fact that he can put the ball out there and you're going to go get it. It's not talk. It's not, hey, I'm always open, come get me. It's action. And so far, his actions have not lent to his ability to catch the ball. Like, honestly, and I don't mean this in any way. I like Alec Pierce a lot. I think he's extremely talented. But I don't know if like I said earlier, I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know uh if it's he's just got the yips. I don't really know. I mean, we're gonna find out, because he's got to play, he's got to step up. He's got to help out. He is the downfield threat. That's what we thought we were getting when we drafted him. So I mean, we're gonna see what he does coming up. So let's keep going. Basel, fans sure don't seem to see the difference between a drop and a good defensive play. I would agree. I mean, sometimes there are great defensive plays. Like I said earlier, and I should have caught myself. The Kylan Granson wasn't a drop on that play in the fourth quarter. It was a really good defensive play. Now, the hands to the face of Michael Pittman Jr., that's not a great defensive play. That's just interference. But there are definitely times that there are great defensive plays that cause them to not make the catch. I think sometimes people can get confused because it can be overthrown by 10 yards and the DB does, whoa, yeah, like no chance, doing all that stuff. And it had nothing to do with them. They got to pay JT before saying it's all good. Got to give flowers to Steichen for being very creative. Impressive for a rookie coach. I think he's been very impressive. I think Steichen has done a magnificent job in regards to certain things. So I'm going to bring in. So we got Adam coming in. I'm going to bring him in here because he can talk too at the same time. So and cover some of these and give me a little bit of a breathing room. Adam, thanks for jumping in, man.
Hey Steven, how you doing?
I'm good, man. So we're just kind of we're talking about a little bit of everything. I want to get, and you can see it's on below. I definitely want to get your opinion because we've had a couple of different people talk. We've been talking a little about JT and the report with Stephen Holder coming out that the relationship seems to be a little bit better. He's going to practice potentially. It looks like tomorrow. Where's your head at with the whole situation? What do you think? And then the big question is that came across so far is, do you think he plays Sunday?
Yeah, I guess to answer the second question, I think he will play Sunday. That's just kind of my gut feeling. I bet he has been itching to play football for quite some time. He doesn't seem like, the type of guy he just seems like a football guy, always has been. And, with the whole ankle injury and everything, I don't think he'll miss a beat. He's a super smart guy. I'm sure, regardless, I don't know how much he's been in the playbook, but I have a feeling that he'll play. As far as the general relationship as a whole, I think he's kind of came to terms with the fact that he's got to play, and he's not getting traded anytime soon. So he's just got to play this year out and see what happens from there. I think that's just kind of where the situation's at right now.
Yeah, that's kind of been my feeling. I think someone asked earlier in the chat, is it time to give Chris Ballard some his flowers for maybe mending the relationship? I don't really know how mended the relationship is. Someone like this is what they said, like you got to pay him probably to mend it fully. But I would be, it's kind of twofold. I would be stunned if if he doesn't play on Sunday, but I'd also be stunned. I don't see him getting a huge workload on Sunday. I think people who are maybe expecting JT to come in and look like JT Prime and from last year, I think it's going to take him a little bit of time, maybe not a ton, but some time to kind of get caught up to speed and understand what's asked of him. So that leads to another question that I want to get your opinion on that came up in the chat too, is that the idea of Anthony Richardson and JT in the backfield. Does that does that excite you to see? And then two, do you think that takes the offense or gives the offense the potential to go to another level?
Oh yeah, that's super exciting. I think from the moment that Anthony Richardson was drafted, a lot of people envisioned that duo in the backfield running that RPO and having that dual threat. But as far as, and then what was the other part of the question? You said, am I excited to see them? And then what
Yeah.
else? Sorry.
Like, are you excited to see him? And do we think that it's going like what do we think is gonna like a question basically got asked, is this gonna open the offense up even more?
Right. Yeah, I mean, in theory, it definitely should. Zach Moss has been a workhorse runner, and I think that's kind of alluding to what we were talking about before. That will kind of allow him to work him in and not, give him the full work, 100% of the snaps right away. But as he's Jonathan Taylor is he has another gear than Zach Moss does. We got to be realistic with that, obviously. And he's a great player, and he can hit home runs. So, I mean, I think that definitely opens you up to the big play. And that's kind of something that we haven't seen that much from the offense so far. I think we saw a couple more deep shots, at least one or two this past Sunday than we had seen. But, when Jonathan Taylor has the football, he always kind of has that chance to, once he hits that second level and puts it in gear, he can break off some big plays. So that certainly adds another explosive element to your offense. So that's something else that they could really look forward to with having him back.
Yeah, I mean, and when we're looking ahead, taking the JT news, and like I've said, like I live in Tennessee, like I live in the Nashville area, so I get to listen to a lot of Titans radio, which reminds me, Eric Alonso. Apparently, we do have a Titan in the chat, so hey, you're always welcome, man. But listening, like right now, a lot of the talk from the Titans to the Colts is centered around Anthony Richardson as a uh, a budding superstar, which I think is how a lot of us are feeling, and that at least right now, outside of that, is probably the most dynamic playmaker the Colts have on offense. So you look at adding a Jonathan Taylor into that. There's concern locally here in Tennessee about this game and what you combine that with what the Titans have kind of put on film lately. How do you feel? Kind of not giving prediction or anything like that yet. Like I said earlier, that I feel like the Colts' biggest weakness on defense, I don't think the Titans are built to take advantage of it, which is the secondary. I think they have a DeAndre Hopkins, but they don't have much behind him. And they have the Ryan Tannehill, who I don't know if he's going to be able to push that ball. What do you think of the matchup? Like what area concerns you that the Titans could do, or what area kind of concerns you with the Colts and the Titans in general?
Yeah, I guess comparing that, running back quarterback duo, we've seen Tannehill be able to run the RPO pretty effectively, especially when they've been handing the ball off to Derrick Henry and having good success. I think we've seen that especially in the goal line areas where, he's giving it to Derrick Henry over and over again. The defense just can't stop him, and so they queue up on him, and then Ryan Tannehill runs in and keeps the ball and can score pretty easily, but when you talk about that element to an offense with running that RPO and that Richardson's on a whole other level athletic, obviously, and he's got a much stronger arm. At this point, as far as accuracy goes, I'd say it's pretty level. I mean, they're just at completely different points of their careers, obviously. And the Titans have been such a down team pretty much every week this year. They've been really good, then they've looked bad, really good, and then bad. And then last week they ended on a good note. So hopefully this week it's a bad one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that their secondary is probably a liability. But I also know that their D line is next level. They're one of the best in the league. So our whole O line is kind of banged up right now. They're going to have a heck of a challenge, keeping those guys blocked and the football effectively.
Yeah, and I see. I'm going to bounce to you a lot, Eric, on here too, because Eric's the Titan. Simmons and Autry are going to eat. Hey, there you are right. Like you are absolutely right, Adam. That their D line, maybe not their entire defense. Their secondary is not the strongest. They do have a really really solid, outstanding safety with Kevin Byard. That D line is very good. Now they're at the same time, I think, they're looking to potentially get back a Tier Tart, who's been really good for them. I don't know if he's going to go. He's just now trying to work himself back. Harold Landry, who was their sack guy a few years ago, I know listening locally here too that he has not looked great this season so far. He's still very much working his way back. But I mean, I've said for years at this point that the guy on the defense that does, I mean, it is Jeffrey Simmons. Like Jeffrey Simmons is like the guy, like almost like Aaron Donald last year or last week, not in the same physicality, physical speed and everything, but he is the guy that can wreck plays and can wreck what you're trying to do very quickly. So he's definitely a concern of mine. Autry always looks to kind of just eat our lunch because of what happened. And I don't know, but I just say that jokingly, but like of him walking out and he always loves to play us. So the D line, and then looking at our O line, it does look like it's trending that Ryan Kelly might be back. He's full participant today. So I think that's a bump. I don't know. Now I'll get your take on this too before we kind of go through some of this. Is I don't know where I sit with. I mean, it was so late in the week last week with Ryman going out with the concussion that I don't know if he plays this week. I don't know. It was such an odd thing because that happened I think on Friday, and then suddenly it was like he's on the injury report with a concussion. So you have him, and then you have. It's just you're right, man. Like the O line, our O line, I think is better than people think when it's healthy, and I don't know how healthy it's going to be on Sunday.
Yeah, that's a big question mark. I think we didn't hear Blake Freeland's name too much at the left tackle spot on Sunday, which is always a good thing. for a rookie O lineman. I don't think there was any penalties or anything like that, and no noticeable sacks. At least not ones that Anthony Richardson wasn't able to get out of and escape. But yeah, seeing both of those guys, I know Autry's a guy that can especially. I believe they run a 3-4 defense. Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So you're always going to see those guys either on the inside or the outside. Jeffrey Simmons is obviously one of the best in the league, if not the best. And then Danico Autry, it just hurts my heart every time I see him because that the Colts let him get away over such a. I remember it being such a just a minimal amount too that Chris Ballard could have upped the ante and just made it and matched the offer at least for the Titans, and he let him walk over it. So he's in the last year of his contract. I'm ready to stop seeing him play finally. But he's also still really good, even coming in at 33, 34 years old. He can still make plays. So we need as many guys as we can. I think you're probably right on Ryman. It's the rest of the practice is going to really dictate that. But Quentin Nelson, he's obviously a big variable too. That toe injury as well, and hopefully having Ryan Kelly back, which it looks like they will have it back, is going to help having him in the center of the O line right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people forget when it comes to Ryan Kelly, he's in the center position. He's definitely the one who, of probably everyone outside of Ryman as a left tackle, is covering the blind side of Richardson. He's probably one of the most important ones because he's going to help call out, where the rushers are coming from, and he's super experienced as opposed to his backup that is not, has no experience really. So I mean, and with Quentin and with Quentin too, I said earlier, I think he's just a gamer. Like I feel like he misses practice a lot and then he just doesn't miss games. I think he's always kind of dinged up. He's gonna play. And for those who got really geeked up about Quentin Nelson versus Aaron Donald, I think you should be more geeked up for Quentin Nelson potentially versus Jeffrey Simmons because the Titans don't move Simmons around. And Eric can correct me, but I don't believe they don't move him around like the Rams do with Donald. He has the potential to line up with Quentin Nelson on a lot of plays.
Yeah, for sure. They need him for sure. And I think you're right. I kind of have that gut instinct too about Nelson. He's just a gamer. Like he might miss practice during the week, but he's going to be there during game time, all eye blacked up and ready to go. So I feel like
he's like Buckner, right? Like I think the stat last week, people got really concerned with DeForest Buckner not practicing. I think the stat was like he's missed like 3 or 4 games in his entire career, something ridiculous. And he's missed a lot of practices, but he doesn't miss games. Mm-hmm. And he still comes out and is very effective. And I think that's flipping it over to the other side. I think that's an advantage for the Colts, right? I think our D-line is probably the strength of the defense. And I would say one of the weakest areas for the Titans is their O-line. So I think it's an area that can be taken advantage of. They're going to want to run the ball. If you can stop Derrick Henry, which I'm going to say it and people are going to rip me, I think. He is not the same Derrick Henry that we've seen in years past. Not so far. He's not. He's getting out carried. Tajay Sharp, who is their rookie running back that they drafted, is getting more carries than he is at this current time. And I believe he broke 100 yards last week. I think that may have been the first time this season so far. His carries are down. His yards per carry are down. He's not necessarily the same. Now, I say that knowing full well all it takes is a 75-yard run from him, and he's back. So yeah. I think they're going to look to do that. And I think because of the strength of where the Colts sit with that D-line, I think you're set up to potentially match up really well with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they've, that we kind of see some up and downs from them on for the defense as a whole. But Henry does have that home run ability too. If he can get going, he can really get going and start running downhill on you. So, and I think we've seen a couple, different instances of, seeing both sides of that with the Colts going up against Henry. But it does seem like for the most part that, you could correct me and I could be wrong, but it seems like it's been more often than not they've been able to contain him and make Ryan Tannehill beat him. and he has. Obviously, they've really had the Colts number for quite some time, so that just all the more reason that they really, really need this game. Especially with it being at home, they really, really got to show that they're trying to turn the tide and, going into a new era of Colts football. It's a huge win, huge game this week. So they really need to key in on, making Brian Tannehill make those throws, making him uncomfortable in the pocket. So we need all hands on deck for sure on the pass rush. Once we're able to shut down the run, make Ryan Tannehill make super accurate throws and make him uncomfortable in the pocket. And I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and the other part too is that this is the first division game for the Titans, right? This is number 3 for the Colts in the first 5 weeks. Like, I hate the way that schedule has shaped up the last few years with that. That you're kind of almost done with meaningful division games, because I mean, we can say what we want, but more than likely that last game of the year against the Texans doesn't mean much at that point. If it means something to the division, that's crazy. But you're trying to not go 1-2 in the division and have that uphill climb that you've had to have pretty much every year over the last half decade.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's such an important game. It is at home. I feel like I've always, whenever I predict like schedules, right? Like I always coin flip the Titans game, because in years past, at least, it's always felt like, you win one, you lose one. It's always split, but it's not really been that way. As much
Mhm.
as Colts fans would love to rub the Titans' face in anything, they haven't really had the ability to beat the Titans. And Zach has said it on here before. I think there's a sense of a slight jealousy sometimes from the Colts to them over at least the last several years leading up to this year, because you could have had a Mike Vrabel as the coach. That is kind of how you wanted to build your team, and they were kind of what you wanted to be. And so you're getting beat by what you wanted to be for quite some time, and it gets frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of seen that the last few years. You got to be realistic, and they, like I said, they've had the Colts number. So hopefully now is the time to turn the tide and start making it. Putting the division crown back on the Colts, because we all know it's been way too long since that happened. We're almost going on 10 years now, if I
Jeez.
remember correctly, which is crazy to say. 10 years since they won the division. So it's about freaking time they start putting up some W's in the division and try to work towards you know the goal of the result of having a home playoff game. If you just win your division, just win your division, and you're going to be set up going into going in here. So
Well, and
uh,
not even that, too. Winning a game at home, like at this point, like they've not won. I think it's what, the last 6, somewhere around there. The stat got put out there too. I mean, we haven't won games at home lately. So I mean, giving the home fans something to get excited about, something to do, that you should have an advantage when you play at home. You know, it is. So I want to ask you, and I'm going to ask the chat too. Give me, I'm curious, a player to watch for you for the Colts in this game. So like a kind of maybe an under the radar. You can throw JT out there, because I mean, who knows what he's going to do if he does play. Um, who's someone you're really keeping an eye on? Kind of, we'll go both sides, Titans and Colts, for this matchup.
okay, I would probably say on offense for the Colts. Those between two tight ends of being Kylan Granson and Andrew Ogletree. I don't think Jelani Woods is going to be back in time for this game, so we're probably going to see a lot of those action between those two guys. Mo Ali Cox, assuming he's going to be an inline guy, even though he did have that big touchdown catch this week. Um, I've really liked what I've seen out of Ogletree so far. He kind of seems like he could make, he's just been targeted quite a bit, and he kind of seems to have some chemistry with him. So I really like what I've seen from him. So hopefully he can continue to make plays. Him and Kylan Granson are kind of just battling for having that good reps there. Granson last week, I want him to do so I'm rooting for him. I'm a big Kylan Granson guy. Ever since he got drafted, we all kind of look at that size and everything. We're hoping he could be that, Dallas Clark type H-back and everything. And there was just, 2 plays last week where that it wasn't perfect ball placement from Richardson, but he still's got a tight end has got to make those. He's not a tight end one, so I shouldn't call him that technically. Molly Cox is, but he's got to make those plays. One of them was at the end of regulation, and Richardson put it where the defense couldn't get it, and it was. I remember the sticks where it was Matt Gay's target field goal line was like right there where he would have been going out of bounds, and he just couldn't bring it in. I think another one was a 4th down where it wasn't a perfect ball, but he's got to make those catches. So I guess I'm kind of cheating. I'm going with both of those guys. It seems like Richardson's targeting him a lot, so that's a big player for them, or a big duo for them going forward for the Colts offense. And I would say for the Titans, it probably is going to be Jeffrey Simmons for me. Focusing on him, making sure that they're on the same page, picking up stunts and everything. So having Kelly in there, I think, is going to be a huge plus with communication, whether it's Will Fries helping him out or Quentin Nelson on the other side, and making sure he doesn't wreck the entire game, because he can definitely do that. So that's probably who I'd focus in on for the Titans. Got plenty of good players everywhere, so I'm, not to, disregard anyone else, but that's probably the guy I cue in on most on defense.
Yeah, I like the tight end ones, and Boswell mentions he's the ever loving Boswell. I think he is right. I don't think they've actually activated Woods yet. And from what we've heard, I don't know if they have a time frame really. Because I don't know. We were all stunned about the surgery and things like that for him. I'm very much excited for him to come back. I like those picks though, because we were talking earlier too that Granson seems to have a really good rapport with Richardson. And I kind of trace it back to he's really been the only healthy body that has been here the entire time. Like OTAs, mini camp, to training camp. Like he's been active. He's been out there every day with Richardson. So he has a great rapport with him. And I think Ogletree's a really good one. I think I read somewhere too, and I like that. Like, you look at a lot of the really solid tight ends in the league. A lot of them are from a lot of them, and I can hear people correcting me, but there's a lot of them are from small schools, and a lot of it is because they don't really know how to develop tight ends in high school and necessarily into college for the most part. And then they get here and they kind of grow into it. I mean, you look at the tight ends just for the Colts alone. Jelani's from Virginia, but Kylan's from SMU and Ogletree's from Youngstown State. So I mean, you just don't know. And Ogletree's probably dynamic wise has looked the best of all. Healthy right now. I think Jelani still is, if he can get healthy and he can come in, I think he's very much tight end one. Right. But I like that one. So, and then, yeah, I mean, if I'm looking on the Colts and I'm looking around, I said it last week and I feel like I was wrong, but I mean, I'm going to say it again. I feel like Joshua Downs might be someone to watch again, just because of the ability to check it. He seems to just always be there, right? Like he's gonna be able to catch the ball. He's gonna get you, 8 or 9 yards. He may not take the top off the defense, but he's super reliable right now, which is amazing for a rookie, right? I mean, to come in and be that reliable, I would look for him to potentially have a really solid game. And then for the Titans, if I want to go different, I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is always the one that I'm going to think about. If I want to go different from yours, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go probably Kevin Byard, because he's the other kind of stud on that defense. And I feel like that veteran with him going against rookie, he could potentially fool Anthony Richardson sometimes and get him to look in the wrong way and not put the ball in the best place, or put it into a place that it doesn't need to be. And then boom, you got to pick six. I mean, he's still a really talented safety. He's really smart. So, I mean, that would be one that I would watch. Flipping it over to the other side, and looking at like the Titans offense and to the Colts defense, I would say for the Titans offense, a guy that I would watch for is actually the other running back. It's going to be Tajay Spears. Um, I'm not even going to call him a backup. We talked earlier that he's out snapping him, and he's very much a receiving threat too. I think they're going to use him in ways that could confuse the Colts. And he's a very dynamic playmaker. So I would look for him. You could go really easy and probably say DeAndre Hopkins too, but I'll go with Spears. And then on the defensive side of the ball for the Colts, I'm going to cheat a little, and I'm just going to say the corners are who I'm going to watch. Not that I'm expecting them. I don't know what I expect. Dallas Flowers is down. You're very thin, and I don't know what to expect from them. And I'm very interested to see how they play this game.
Yeah, for sure. That was kind of the other, I guess, X factor or person I was looking for. Not necessarily the best player or anything like that, but someone that was kind of draw my attention. That was going to be my defensive option or spot, I guess, for the Colts was that second cornerback spot. I think we all obviously have Juju Brent slotted in at the 1. And I think he's doing great, and I feel comfortable with him there. You obviously have Kenny in the slot. But having, you're looking at your other options there with Darrell Baker Jr. Competing for that to fill in that role. That's kind of scary because we kind of saw what he looked like the first few weeks. So I think him and Jalen Jones. I'm probably forgetting one other name, probably who's going to be in there. That's definitely a spot we got to look for. And obviously probably Juju you'd like to think would be following D-Hop, but I don't know if that's necessarily how Gus Bradley rolls, if depending on how they play the defense. So that's going to be a huge X factor as who's going to be that second guy on the outside, because we're going to probably need some help, especially if D-Hop's on that side of the field.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're all good picks, right? So, all right. So before we finish up, I want to get predictions. So, chat, everyone in there, and the chat's been very lively tonight again in regards to answering questions and kind of going along that. And really quickly, Trevor, you asked about my hat. It's just lids, man. Lids.com. That's where you get all the good stuff, right? Fanatics, that's where you get it all. So I want to get everyone's predictions into the chat, and I'm going to start. Adam, I want to hear yours. What do you think? Who do you think wins it, score wise, high scoring, low scoring? What do you got?
Yeah, I think it'll be middle of the road, not necessarily high or low scoring. I'm going to just go with my gut, just 23-21, last second game winning field goal from Matt Gay, redeems himself from his missed kick from last week, goes back to hero status. Colts win 23-21.
I like it. So I'm going to go. See, what's funny is when I picked this year, I think in the very beginning, before any game was played, I picked the Colts losing this game and then winning in Tennessee later. But I'm going to flip it. I think the Colts do get the win. And man, Corey stole my score. Corey, I'm telling Zach, man, 27-17. And I say that because I think the offense is going to put up a couple of points. The Titans have shown the ability to not put up points in the past. And the joke around Tennessee right now is 27 points is kind of their kryptonite. Like they've not, even in their best game this year, they have not scored over 27 points. So the first to 27 wins. So I'm going to go same as Corey. I'm going to go 27-17 Colts. Pick up a very much needed victory in the division against the rival that if he were here, Zach would say he utterly hates so much. He despises the Titans, just like with this fiery passion. So I'm sure that we'll hear from him at some point about what his pick is. But, man, it's been a blast tonight. We've had a lot of people come in through the chat. Adam, thank you so much for coming on here, man. It's always great having you on. I think you give some amazing insight too, and breakdowns. So I appreciate you jumping on, man.
Absolutely, Stephen. Thanks for having me on.
Always. And you guys, if you haven't yet, make sure go subscribe, join the family, hit the subscribe button, ding the bell so you don't miss the live streams. We'll come at you guys with some more stuff probably later this week. Maybe some new JT news. We got the instant reaction coming. And as always, I love you. Zach loves you. I know Adam loves you too. And we'll talk to you guys next time.